you do in your 20s to set you up for success to really strike in your 30s?
I worked my face off, and I learned my craft.
Like how many hours? Like how?
All of them.
Like 24, no sleep.
Like, you know, I slept, but like, I worked I'll give you a good example. There's not a lot of 20-year-olds who can say they worked every single Saturday of their entire 20s, period. I did. I worked 50 to 52 Saturdays a year from 22 to 29 until I met my wife and started having to like build some level of work-life balance. And that's hard work.
And what did you do on those Saturdays?
I got to wine library at 7:30 in the morning and I left at 7, 8, or 9. I just worked. I just built a management staff. I just tasted wine. I just built up the website, learned how to do Google AdWords. You know, I just worked. And when I tell you worked, like, I am and was a workaholic, and I didn't say a word, right? Like, I didn't do podcasts. I didn't, you know, there wasn't social media, but there was. I didn't start a MySpace page to say, look at me, look what I'm doing. I had the outlets. I built my craft. I became a great wine taster, which allowed me to taste 15, 20 wines a day. Like during my day, I would taste 15 to 20 wines. You'd be a salesperson from Enrique Ibanez's wine company in New York, and I would taste 12 wines from you, and I would say, wow, that third Rioja, you only want $9 for it, but it tastes like $40 Rioja. And then I would look it up and be like, okay, it's selling for $15.99 on the internet, and it's $9. Hey, if I take 50 cases, will you do 7? And I ran a business. I was a merchant, right? And I was training up my people, and I was training Brandon Warnke to be able to replace me if I, quote unquote, got hit by a bus. And I was watching trends, and that's what led me to YouTube. I'm like, this is gonna be big. But wait a minute, I can't buy ads on this like I can on AdRoll or on Google. You know, what do I do with this? Should I get a camera and just talk about wine? That sounds like not a bad idea. I mean, content's important, but I didn't even call it content, right? I didn't even this world didn't exist that we all live in now. I'm like, but I thought about Emeril Lagasse when I did it. Like, I thought about that. So I just started reviewing wine that did take off, as you mentioned.
And was it quickly that you got a following?
No, the first year, you know, I started on February 20th, 2006. In July of 2007, a year and a half later, the break happened. It was still quite small, but I got invited to be on the Conan O'Brien show. And you're a youngster, so I don't know where you were at this point, but the internet, the Web 2.0 world, which was the seed to the world we're in now, Daring Fireball is a blog, TechCrunch, Jason Kotke, Anil Dash, Waxy.org. These are rich, right?
Is right when I was writing Business Insider.
Love it. So like
in 2007.
Perfect. So that whole crew, the front page of Dig, right? Meta Filter, you know, that whole, like, you know, it's just fun to like, right? That whole world, and I don't know if you remember this, but basically that whole world and some of the small early Twitter people, Scoble, Calcanis, Kevin Rose, iJustine, Pete Cashmore, and Mashable, everybody, and I mean everybody, wrote about me being on Conan. Because it was like YouTube person on Conan? And then the clip was awesome. I got him to eat dirt and grass. It went viral on YouTube, and that pretty much, that took me from being a top 500 followed person on Twitter to a top 50 person followed on Twitter. Then Kevin Rose asked me to be on Dig Nation. Then, you know, I was on the Today Show and Ellen, and then it started rolling.
Wow. And so what was it that Conan saw in you that made him invite you on a show? Like a wine guy, YouTuber?
Nothing. He saw nothing. He had no idea who I was. A producer of that show, cousin, was watching it, thought I was funny, and they have these pitch meetings, right? Where they're like, what should we do? There's this weird guy on the internet who's like talking about wine in a very different way. They called me. I had always thought, what would happen if that happened? So I had the idea of...
You thought about what would happen if Conan called me?
Not Conan, but I thought, what if daytime TV or morning TV? Yeah, of course. I mean, I already think about like what I'm going to be doing on Alexa Voice, and what am I going to be doing on VR, and how am I going to use message bots, and what's going to happen when my kids are 18, and like when I buy the jets, like who's going to be my GM? Like, nobody you know has become successful outside of it being given to them from their family Nobody you know has actually created success without working their face off. It doesn't exist. So you can sit and talk about luck, and you can sit and talk about this, that, or the other thing, but I promise you, the only controllable thing you have is your work ethic. So, going back to the beginning of my talk, you need to deploy serious self-awareness and figure out who you are. I implore you to start matching your work ethic and your actions to your mouth. If you're gonna be a billionaire, you need to realize that most people that create $1 billion worth of wealth don't do anything besides work every single day of their 20s and 30s. All of them. Every person that works at VaynerMedia has taken more vacations in the last 13 months than I did in my entire 20s and early 30s. My family went on 2 family vacations my entire childhood. I was married to my wife for 5 years before we had a family. We took 2 vacations. It's the price you have to pay if you want it at the level that I want it at. And by the way, I advise nobody to want it at that level. I'm being dead serious. This is a very true statement that I think most of you will not believe, but I'm telling you it's the goddamn truth. If there was a drug that could take some ambition out, I would take it. It is so extreme. It is all in. The reason I started Garyvee was to remind you that I'm outworking you. That when you talk and you're trying to figure it out, when you're trying to say you're gonna be like me, I want you to see it. I want you to see every other day 5 a.m. I want you to see every day midnight. All of them, every day, always, forever. That's what it takes for what I want. Good news is, between what I want and what is achievable and is considered unbelievably all-time happy is a big gap. So there's plenty of vacation time. I know tons of people with vacation time. I know tons of people with work-life balance. I know tons of people that do tons of fun activities and that make 7 figures, millions of dollars a year and love it. I'm playing for legacy. I'm playing for all time. I'm looking to impact every generation that comes behind me because I want to show that you can build all-time wealth, all-time greatness, doing it the right way and the old way. That's what I'm up to. So please make sure you understand that, and more importantly, make sure you understand yourself so that you can reverse engineer that blueprint and figure out where you fit within that and then deploy it. But I promise you, you will not get there with your big idea. I promise you, sitting around and saying, oh, I had that idea for Uber before Uber did. Nobody gives a shit. I've got every idea that's gonna be successful over the next 100 years. It's all about AI and VR and AR and augmented and all this. I'll give them to you all. It doesn't matter, because most of you won't execute against it. The reason I put out all my best stuff and I'm liked and I don't charge for it is somewhere along the line I realized that 99.9% of you aren't gonna do anything about it. You're gonna ponder it, you're gonna get super pumped up when you watch me say it, and then 3 weeks later you're gonna give up because you're not willing to pay the price. And that's cool. Everybody's different, but you need to figure out what price you are willing to pay for what you want. I do believe, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I don't, but I do believe that work ethic is a taught behavior. It's something you do have more control over. And yeah, I think, and you know what really sealed the deal for me? Getting healthier. I was 38 years old and it didn't come natural to me. Like, it didn't come natural to me at all. I hate the gym. I hate it now. I hate it, I don't like it, I don't want to do it. But I knew it was important. And somewhere around midway through being 38 years old, I got serious, I figured out my system, I made the financial commitment, and I've won, right? And I'll never lose again because the system was I needed to be accountable to another human being. So it was about Mike and now Jordan and whoever else is my trainer. I'm doing it almost weirdly more to not let them down than to, and so that was the shift. And so I feel like there's a shift that can make people work harder. The big one that I push is you're gonna die. Like if you're like to me, life is broken down into complaining and not. So if you're not complaining, well then I have no advice for you. I'm pumped. Like you did it. Like I have friends who make $42,000 a year, work 9 to 4, kind of, with an hour and a half lunch and 45 minutes of YouTube and 10 minutes of bullshitting and an hour of complete waste of time in a meeting. So they're kind of working like 6, hours a week, right? But they're pumped.
Right.
And they text me, these are high school friends, and they'll text me like how happy they are to be the coach of their kids' baseball team. And like that's amazing. Like that seems very obvious to me. Like that's right. Like, what's super weird? I'm actually weirdly envious. It sounds cool, like in theory, right? Grass is always greener, right? Like far less pressure, like all that time with my kids, oof, that would be cool. Like there's just like all these things that I can justify. So to me, but I have friends who have $100 million in the bank because of Facebook's IPO, who complain, who are still hungry, who want to do even more, who will complain to me because they know I work a lot about no work-life balance and they don't get to spend enough time with their family. And I'm like, you have $100 million. Like you could stay home. Like you're in control. Like you don't complain about it. You've made that choice. Don't bullshit me. Like you want to spend more time with your family? Spend more time with your family. This is back to what we said about keyboard warriors. I'm trying to be very careful about what I'm saying versus what I'm doing, because that's how you get exposed. And I don't mean like people calling you out and being like, you suck. I mean to yourself. I don't want to be exposed by myself. It's looking yourself in the mirror and saying like, am I doing this right? So to me, there's so many people that are talking shit about how big of an entrepreneur they're gonna be and how much they're gonna achieve, and they don't work on weekends. I worked every Saturday of my 20s. And I talk to 20-year-old entrepreneurs every single day. Lately, I've been saying to them, this Saturday, you're gonna have more time off than I've had in my entire 20s on a Saturday. So before you tell me how you're gonna be bigger than me, start thinking about what you're actually doing.
Right.